All right, good morning and happy Monday, everyone. This is Taylor getting the party started for the 22nd of May. It's kind of crazy to think we're almost at the halfway point of the year. My grandmother always told me once you turn 25, the days, the weeks, the months, the years begin to fly by. And Grandma was not wrong. But advance warning here this morning, guys. My charts are pretty slow. I cleaned out my cache, did a couple of reboots, got rid of every indicator I don't use. Still a little bit clunky. But all right, we should be good on the audio and the video here. I'm 30 now. My grandma was just giving me the warning at 25. But all right, folks, the multi-million. Yeah, you can see how slow these charts are. If any of you were having trouble with Thinkorswim this morning, let me know. Maybe it's not a me problem. But all right, guys, the multi-million-dollar question of the week. And let me know what you're thinking here in the chats. But does the S&Ps, or do the S&Ps rather, close Friday above that key level of 4,200? All right, a big whopping level of resistance. Now here's the thing. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. But as far as playing the probabilities game here, the Bulls have kind of got everything they need from a signal standpoint, from a squeeze standpoint, to actually go out here this week and get the job done. All right, break above that 4,200, stay above that 4,200, and then I think with the domino effect from your nested squeezes, we could be heading back towards the August highs, or we will completely fumble the ball. We'll fail here at 4,200, and down we go. Right back into the wonderful box. So as far as things working in the Bulls' favor, up here we got the big three labels, and we have buy signals on the weekly, the daily, the 4-hour, 2-hour, and the 1-hour. So she leans a bit bullish. And then my weekend project, I build out these labels down here, and that'll tell me if we have a bull squeeze or a bear squeeze. Bull squeeze meaning you have a squeeze, and you are cranking out the buy signal on that time frame. So for squeezes here on the S&Ps, bull squeeze rather, the weekly chart, the 2-day chart, and the daily time frame are printing out that sweet combo. All right, so domino effect. If the daily squeeze can fire long, rip the market through that 4,200. From there, there's a pretty good chance. As the daily squeeze begins to release all that energy, the 2-day squeeze could do the same thing. Fire to the upside. If the 2-day squeeze fires to the upside, then you got the big fella here on the weekly chart. So one after the other, daily squeeze fires, 2-day squeeze fires, weekly squeeze fires, and with a big break above a huge key level. I would think that should provide the oomph here. All right, should provide the thrust for a push back towards that 4,300, 4,350. And if you look at your QQQ, the QQQ has basically done that move. All right, the QQQ got the job done. Oh, the charts are slow, but you can see QQQ here fires the weekly squeeze, and you're actually trading back above the August highs. So again, from a path of least resistance point of view, everything does lean pretty bullish here heading into the week. Buy signals on the weekly down to the 1-hour. And then you throw the buy signals into a few squeezes. And that's where some good stuff can happen. Like LRCX, for example. Frankly, a lot of the big tech names, a lot of the semiconductor names, they gave you that nested squeeze magic last week. So LRCX here, you actually still have a few, but you had a weekly squeeze, a 3-day, a 2-day, a daily, a 4-hour, a 1-hour, and a 30-minute, all on top of that daily 21 EMA. All right, so talk about domino effect. First goes the 30-minute squeeze, then goes the 4-hour, then goes the daily, so on and so on. And that's where you can get some of these explosive moves. Here's the good news, though. The good news is, across your larger time frames, like your weekly chart and your 3-day chart, some of the squeezes here in the recent leadership haven't even fired to the upside just yet. So Lam Research, they do fire the daily squeeze. And that opens up the door for a nice push. The 2-day squeeze just begins to fire. Right, so that party's all pretty brand new. The 3-day squeeze hasn't fired. That points towards the potential for continuation. Now, we're building up energy. And if that squeeze fires, you should get a nice push. And then, of course, you got the weekly chart, where that squeeze still hasn't fired to the upside. So a big part of the game plan, until proven wrong, is trying to buy the dips. All right, trying to fight for a good entry in the AMDs, in the Amazons, the LRCXs of the world, where your weekly 3-day, 2-day squeezes have either just fired, right? So it's either all pretty brand new, or they haven't fired at all. So the thinking is, all right, Lam Research comes down to earth a little bit. We're patient, we wait for some support, wait for a few triggers, but you want to buy that flush with the thinking that 4, 8, 12 weeks down the road, that weekly squeeze should have fired long and given you continuation of that push. So that is the theme, guys. Broadcom, for example, and to an extent, they all look a little bit similar. Now, Broadcom has earnings, so we're probably not going to get caught up in that one. See AMD. AMD, what you got? I think AMD just fired the 2-day squeeze. Yeah, so you're only 2 bars into that squeeze firing to the upside. So try to wait for a bit of a flush. Wait for some support. Wait for it to stabilize. But until proven wrong, my game plan would be buy that dip, with the thinking the 2-day squeeze has got some more gas in the tank. Now, you should get your continuation into higher prices. So LRCX, Nvidia, AMD, Broadcom, NOW, AMAT. What you guys can do is go to etfdb.com. You watch Ragi sessions. She shares this a lot. But if we're saying, hey, semiconductors, that's kind of your leadership right now, that along with big tech stocks, go to etfdb.com, search the SMH ticker, all right, the semiconductor ETF, and then over here on the holdings tab, you can kind of see who's who as far as the semis go. The Nvidia, of course, is the big boy. TSM, AMD, ASML, Intel, Broadcom, AMAT, Qualcomm, all the classics. And again, they all kind of look the same. Big weekly squeeze here for NOW. All right, so pretty straightforward. Bunch of squeezes setting up, bunch of buy signals setting up. But if you look at them on a daily time frame, not my favorite entry in the world up here. So a little bit of a pullback would not be the worst thing. And then moving outside of your semiconductors, I think Netflix is another one where over the next 2 to 4 to 8 weeks, you're going to look for continuation out of your nested squeezes. So the daily bull squeeze fires long, as tends to be the case when the stock goes up 10% on a Thursday. The 2-day squeeze just fires long. The 3-day squeeze just begins to fire long. And the weekly, the big bad weekly squeeze, still coiled up, yet to fire. So my thinking would be when and if that weekly squeeze fires long and you take out the previous highs here, at a minimum, guys, we should be pushing back towards 400 and change. And just so happens the weekly 200 SMA is right up here, right around 405. So I do think you should get a push towards that 400 level out of that beautiful weekly squeeze. But then you look at a daily chart and yeah, it's a little bit cooked. So maybe you buy a little bit at the hourly 21 EMA, or maybe you're buying a little bit down to, all the way down to 350. I'd be willing to scale into a position. So that all looks pretty good. Next up here, guys, is Tesla. You might have heard of it once or twice. Now, Tesla here is not the prettiest. Not the prettiest, not the strongest. Right, no weekly uptrend, really no daily uptrend, but still does make some decent progress last week. All right, progress report number 1. Cranking out 3 closes back above the daily 21 EMA. All right, always a bonus point for the bulls. We also have a brand new squeeze. And then down here on your momentum histogram, we're getting a fresh cross of momentum. So potentially the gas tank is getting filled up here for the bulls. Let's see what else. Last week they got rid of any and all sell signals. So now we have a buy signal on the 4-hour, 2-hour, 1-hour, 30, and the 5. And then on the squeeze end, things are a little bit quiet. But for today's open, we do have a pretty nice 5-minute bull squeeze. That's set up right before the close on Friday. So a couple levels here. At no point should this end up back under 170. All right, back under 170, it's a total dud. If we can get above 180, which happens to be the 21 EMA from the weekly chart, above 180, then I think you're looking for a push back towards your daily 200 SMA, which lies, somewhere in that neighborhood of $200. Get a big, sexy target on that one. All right, so in a daily squeeze, above the 21 EMA, if all the buy signals here across lower time frames can break us above that 180, I think you're looking for continuation higher. If we fail here initially and pull back, we should not end up back under 170. Back under 170, no interest in playing it to the upside. So watch the 170 and the 180 level. But Tesla does make a little bit of progress. And then, guys, last but not least, a couple of honorable mentions off of the scan results. First up is JP Morgan. And JP's got a handful of nested squeezes here. Take a look. All right, we are bullish across the weekly, daily, 4-hour, 2-hour, 1-hour, and the 5. And we have a bull squeeze on the weekly, the daily, the 1-hour, and the 5-minute. So, domino effect. 5-minute bull squeeze fires long. Triggers a nice push. The 1-hour squeeze could fire. The daily squeeze could fire. And then on the top of the hill, the top of the mountain, you get the big weekly squeeze. So JP Morgan, pretty interesting. My wife's favorite store, or one of her favorite stores, TJ Maxx. Whole bunch of buy signals. And from a 2-day chart down to the 1-hour, you got some bull squeezes. All right, so first comes the 1-hour squeeze. If that can fire to the upside, then comes the 2-hour. If that can fire to the upside, then comes the 4-hour, then comes the daily, so on and so on. And remember, LRCX, Amazon, Google, what triggered a lot of these huge pushes here over the last 1 to 2 weeks was that nested squeeze dynamic. And the key, of course, is like a JP Morgan or like a TJ Maxx, trying to find those moments in time right on top of that daily 21 EMA. If those two things come together, all right, you got your squeezes, and your path of least resistance indicator says, yeah, we're bullish. You're playing a pretty high probability game where the squeezes should fire to the upside. So JP Morgan, TJ Maxx, and then Visa. Actually, not too shabby. Not too shabby. Let's see. For Visa, we have nested bull squeezes on the weekly, 2-day, 4-hour, 2-hour, and the 1-hour. All right, one after the other. And then I think, what was the other one? Marriott. Mm, actually, I take that back. Don't get me wrong; it's a nice setup. Got some buy signals, but as far as the explosiveness of 1, 2, 3, 4 squeezes at once on the same stock, old Marriott over here just has that one squeeze here on the weekly. All right, so my whole thinking would be, well, what's going to trigger that weekly squeeze to fire long? I can look at a JP Morgan and say, you know what might trigger that weekly squeeze? Could be the squeezes across all the lower time frames. So you're kind of stacking the odds of a big move in your favor if you can find 2, 3, 4 squeezes at once. And that is that, guys. Keep in mind, most of this probably won't work if the S&Ps totally get their behinds handed to them today at that 4,200. But if I was a betting man, and I guess by virtue of the profession, I'm a betting man, they've got what they need for now. If anything can get you through a big level of resistance, it'd be squeezes and a bunch of buy signals. So we'll all be a little bit smarter here in a handful of hours. But any questions, guys or gals, let me know. That is the bulk of the watch list for now. Look here at the futures. S&Ps are pretty quiet. The QQQ futures are flat as could be. The Dow Jones futures, flat as could be. And the RUT, small cap futures. Up a little bit. So nothing to write home about here in the futures. And then, of course, you get the whole, which frankly I don't pay too much attention to, but you do have the whole the back and forth ping pong going on this week as far as the debt ceiling and things of that nature. So it also could be a market where things are kind of on standby here for a sound bite either which way. But we'll trade the charts in front of us and let the rest of the world figure out the debt ceiling. I unfortunately am of no help when it comes to that. So Earl, good question. You would want to watch the lowest time screen. You'd want to watch the lowest time frame squeeze first. So say we're going to focus on TJ Maxx today. Right, TJ Maxx, we got squeezes on the 2-day, the daily, the 4-hour, 2-hour, and the 1-hour. So if I'm trying to find that domino effect where, there goes the 1, there goes the 2, there goes the daily, it's going to start from the ground floor. Meaning before the 2-day squeeze fires long, the hourly squeeze has to fire long first. Okay, so one domino falls, the 1-hour chart, that knocks down the 2-hour domino, that knocks down the 4-hour domino, then the daily, and then the 2-day. And the beauty of that is, hey, if the 1-hour squeeze can't fire to the upside today, and even better if the 1-hour squeeze fires short, then we already know the timing is off here as far as trying to catch that huge rip higher. So before we get caught up in the glitz and the glamour, so to say, of the bigger time frames, no, we're going to watch that 1-hour chart. This either gets the party going by pushing and firing the squeeze higher, or this kind of tells us, hey guys, not yet. Maybe we're trading sideways. Maybe the squeeze fire is short. But either which way, it's going to be a great compass, so to say, for your larger time frames. So good question there, Earl. All right, guys, keep going through. Yeah, Trader John, I'm not too sure what that says about the market, but you're right. Small caps, the leadership this morning. And our leadership is up about 0.4%. Not what you would call a scorcher. And Mikey, yeah, good point. Nvidia does have earnings on Wednesday. It's down about $3 to the open, which in the grand scheme of things, not a huge deal, but down a little bit nonetheless. Definitely something to be mindful of. One of three things can happen. One, total non-event. Two, Nvidia earnings are just so spectacularly good. Maybe every semiconductor stock is just continuing that pump higher this week. Or maybe earnings are just so catastrophically bad. Nvidia gets hammered, and then you get the rest of the semis kind of following suit. We'll find out. I'm interested to see what the expected move is. Because, man, this thing has just been... They've been pumping this thing all the way into the announcement. So I'm wondering, are they pricing in a relatively small move? Kind of banking on everything already being priced in. But we'll find out. I'm here for it either which way. White belt trader. What do I think of Berkshire on the weekly? It's got a nice daily squeeze. Looks awesome. All right, the squeeze just fired long last week. So from here, you should look for continuation. All right, rule of thumb is once the squeeze fires, we're going to tend to look for 5 to 8 plus bars of momentum. Meaning your weekly squeeze, that party could last for 5 to 8 plus weeks. So as you go through charts like Berkshire, you go through charts like Netflix, AMD, to kind of combat against any FOMO you might have from last week's big push. If this weekly squeeze works as advertised, and we don't know if it will, but if it does work as advertised, then nothing's even started just yet. We don't look for a squeeze to fire long, and then one bar in, the move is done and over with. Granted, always nice to catch the easy part of the push. Get long down here at your 21. But nonetheless, I think, like in Netflix, like a few of the names that we covered this morning, if a good entry gets presented, you look for your weekly squeeze to work as advertised. All right, 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week plus should continue to grind higher. Grind higher. How's the rest of the banks looking? Getting curious now. Ooh, Goldman not the hottest. Not the hottest on the block. Bank of America is just kind of eh. But J.P. Morgan and old Uncle Warren have got a little bit more going in their favor here. So not bad looking charts at all. But hey, listen, guys, I got to let you go here for a little bit. I will be back here later today in the free room at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. And I'm a pretty big fan of our 2 o'clock sessions in here. At that point, most of the day is kind of unfolded. So together we can see where it all currently sits, what's looking good, what's not looking good. And then, of course, if we pull the trigger on any fresh trade ideas here today, we'll discuss that during the 2 p.m. Eastern session. But guys and gals, as always, I appreciate your time. Appreciate you getting your trading week started with me here during the YouTube stream and over here in the free room. So y'all have a great morning, and I will see you this afternoon. Adios.